Hello, everybody. My name is Kate Lovingshank, and I am interviewing Alana Kaivalia. I don't know if I am pronouncing it correctly.
That is correct.
PhD, and she has written this book, which is not up. It's called The Way of the Satisfied Woman, Reclaiming Feminine Power. And as we know, this is a troubling time for the feminine in us. Um,
Here's the
but
book. I have it here.
okay, good, good. So I'm interested in how you came across that um, satisfied woman part of the whole paradigm.
Yeah, actually, it has a pretty, I think, interesting backstory. So I've been studying femininity and polarity and women's, not just rights, but women's way to be in the world as a modern day woman for a very long time. And I've been trying to dig in and talk more about how women can utilize the power and agency and choice that we have at this time, which is pretty unique. And in my research, interestingly, found that really the only writings on this kind of topic are for men. So there's a pretty well-known book in the men's work world. It's from about 30 years ago called The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. And that's what really kicked off a lot of the men's movements that's happening. Men are doing this work, which I very much applaud. And I thought, well, I need to write the counterpoint to The Way of the Superior Man. And women aren't looking for superiority. So I landed on the word satisfied. And the reason is because of the definition of satisfaction, which is the pleasure derived from the fulfillment of your wishes and needs. It's a holistic experience. It's a
Yes.
feeling experience, and it really embodies some of the most important qualities to the feminine. And so that's how I got the way of the satisfied woman, and really am leaning into this concept of satisfaction for women as a juxtaposition to what men aspire to or what masculine values are.
Yes, and you were talking a lot about polarity in your
Yeah.
book. Um,
Yes.
so in so many ways, it is difficult for women and men to reach an agreement based on how society has been for forever, and
Yeah.
and the subjugation of women, not
Yes.
to mention misogyny, is running so deeply now than ever. Uh,
Yeah.
so you say it's time to do things differently. It's time to take back the power inherent in our femininity. And
Yeah.
it is time. We can't
Yeah.
wait for anything anymore because, as you said, this is interesting. Women, urgency is part of our biology.
It certainly is.
I like,
I think every woman feels it. We want it now. When do we want it? We want it right now. And that kind of goes to things that I think people often associate with being a woman, which is that constant inquisition, like when are you going to get it done? The expectation of, let's move forward, let's commit, let's move on. Like there's a lot wrapped up in it. And it's not just that we're impatient, it's that we actually, our entire body runs on a clock. It just does. We can't get away from it. We don't have the luxury of being housed in a male body, which doesn't have those limitations and systems. So we need to work with what we have. And I think that timeliness and that urgency that's ticking within us all the time is actually quite helpful in terms of getting things done.
yes, yes, except that we have gone a little backwards in our pursuits, you might say. Um, I think that what is going on now with tr the authoritarian rule in our country, whether
Mm,
we like to call it that or not, but that's what it is. That it has sort of set all of us back, but especially women. And not to mention the abortion rights have been set back. Women's even being pregnant and having a miscarriage, suddenly they go to jail. What the hell is that about?
I don't know that I have an answer for that, but what I continuously try to keep in mind is that even with what is happening around us, no matter what side of the political spectrum we're on, We do actually, as women right now, have more power, agency, and choice than we ever have.
Yeah,
I mean, I think about the fact that women weren't even allowed to have their own bank account
right.
without a male cosigner until 1988.
Right.
So I think about even my mother. She had to make much more difficult choices in her youth about reproduction and reproductive rights than I have to make now. I think about my grandmother and the life that she lived through as a prisoner in a prison camp in World War II. Whatever we're living through right now at this moment, what I'm grateful for is that we have more power and agency in this moment than we ever have.
Right.
And so that makes it to me even more urgent that, like, look, if there's something happening in this world that doesn't serve you, that isn't in your highest interest, that isn't in alignment with what you believe and need as a woman, thank goodness it's happening now and we can do something about it.
I agree. It's true. Well, it's an opportunity.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Because women are the course correctors, right? So the feminine is sort of like the canary in the coal mine. It's the feminine that's going to feel first when things don't feel right. The two superpowers of femininity really are our intuition and our emotional depth. And they are powerful and they are incredible and they are not logical. They just aren't, they don't have reason. And so when the feminine feels either that emotional discomfort or that intuitive knowing that things around are not correct, like they are not working for me, which means they're not working for anybody else, we're the ones who press forward in trying to create change.
Mhm.
Women are the inquisitors. We question things. That's our job. We're truth seekers. And
Right.
so we're really going to be at the forefront of any social change that is required. So, again, take that as a power because that's been turned by the patriarchy into negative things. They call us nagging. They say we're pushy. They call us bossy. They want us to be more logical. They want us to override our intuition. Those are all just suppression mechanisms of the patriarchy. We don't need that to work anymore. We can
Yeah.
actually speak up in a different way and make sure that we own the power that is inherent in us and never stop questioning.
Right. We have to be strong in
Yeah.
our and courageous about this
Yes.
whole thing. And
Absolutely.
and I think of all the people in my life right now, which are mainly women. We are all very focused on changing this situation about here. Um, and
Nice.
you can talk. It's a difficult thing to come upon a balance between being horrified and absolutely angered by what's going on, but it doesn't really help anybody to feel these things. Like for instance, I do the Course in Miracles for the last many, many years.
Oh, nice.
And so they tell me every morning before I get up and confront the horror that, that's not the way to go. And, the morning routine is very important. Maybe do the news mid-afternoon from now on or something.
Yeah, maybe don't toxify the brain space until you've really got some fortification under you for the day. I get that. And I don't want to negate emotions either. Like if you are horrified, if you are feeling bad about it, like, I want us as women to really own and lean into our emotions and to not repress them because that's been part of the problem actually. But what I also want is for those emotions to drive us to action,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And not debilitate us.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
My grandmother was a suffragette in the early 20th
Oh,
century.
awesome.
So I think that is very important for my lineage. And those sorts of things don't go away when they go, or they haven't ever really gone away. Uh,
No, they should never go away,
uh,
especially the lessons of our grandmothers.
right. So you talk about the four pillars, which I found to be very interesting. So that is the foundation of being satisfied.
It is, yeah. Yeah, the four keys is what I call them. They're the things that really unlock feminine satisfaction, which again, I want us as women to center satisfaction over success. The patriarchal narrative is really hell bent on success, success at all costs, success to the detriment of others, having to climb that ladder up and over other people, success on an individual level, doing it on our own, powering through. And those are all fine, but they don't really serve the feminine.
Hmm. Hmm.
So for the feminine to really be happy, to really have the sense of pleasure and joy that is her birthright, we want satisfaction because it's holistic. It's horizontal as opposed to vertical. It's constantly evolving, which we are. It's ever changing. We can evolve our wishes and needs. We don't need a specific deadline. We can take a circuitous route. We're actually comfortable with all of those things as the feminine, but satisfaction can't even begin. It can't even begin until we have the four keys in place, which are safety, meaning that we are free to be ourselves and free from harm in body, mind, and heart. That we have security, which means that we're assured that all of our most precious needs are being met, either by ourselves or by people around us helping. That we have trust in ourselves. And for the feminine, the most important version of trust is to trust our intuition and our emotions,
Yeah.
and that we're able to trust the people in the world around us, right? So it's twofold. And then the cherishing piece, which is that we are cherished by the masculine, either within us and around us.
Right.
So all humans have feminine and masculine. So
Mhm.
we as feminine women, we also have masculine energy within the psyche, but we don't want it to dominate. We want it to be in service of our femininity and to center our femininity. So that in that way, our internal masculine cherishes our bright feminine. But externally, we want our external masculine counterparts to cherish us, which means that they honor and center our emotions and intuition and never dismiss them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So trust, security, being cherished, safety, those four things need to be in place. It's a dynamic. These are not things we can 100% provide for ourselves all the time. I wish they were, but we
Yeah.
live in a world that is relational. There are other people around. We have to deal with them. And so we need to start creating environments, places, spaces, people, relationships that serve and support those four keys for us and with us as well.
Right. And so when people gather together and they purposely concentrate on these heart-centered, they are heart-centered.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's an evolution, and of course we learn so much about ourselves through being triggered by other people.
Oh, yes. That's where the greatest learning really lies, unfortunately. It'd be nice if it was a little easier.
I know. Um, and one thing in your book was mentioned by you said that somebody that you value said that the key to a honest relationship is always help each other get their needs met.
Yes.
And that would be a reciprocal enterprise, I think.
Absolutely. So I talk about that in terms of intimate partnerships. And I have this habit that I really love to ask people that have been together for a very long time, what's your secret? And I've had the privilege of asking people who've been together for, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And you get the standard responses, never go to bed angry, always introduce humor into the relationship. But this particular answer came from a couple who had been married for over 60 years. 60 years. They're the couple that, in all my questioning, has been together the longest, and this was their answer, and it blew my mind. And both of them agreed that the most important thing is for you each to help each other to get your needs met. And that's not to the detriment of the other's needs. And oftentimes the needs are what serve the relationship most. But if both of you have that at the center as like your highest goal, if you're essentially in service to each other all the time, it creates this kind of unity where you always know the other has your back. And so that was profound enough for me to put in the book.
Um, and the key there is to be in service to each other
Yeah.
and maybe in service to anybody we are affiliated with. To
Well,
relation, like for instance,
maybe.
I just retired as a nurse,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
I did have that as my most important, cherished offering to my patients was
Yeah.
just an unconditional love, no matter what was going on in their
I,
life.
I think I'd like to put a little asterisk on that idea of service because I come from, 20 years of being in the yoga and spiritual industries. And I think, especially for women, sometimes that notion of service becomes martyrdom very quickly and easily.
Yeah.
And especially given the narratives that we're trained with and grow up with, that really our greatest value is in how much we give ourselves away. And unfortunately, that depletes us, it drains us, it overwhelms us, it exhausts us. But we're raised to think that the more and more that we give, that keeps us safe. And this, as soon as we say no, as soon as we stop giving, we are discarded or abandoned. And that's sometimes true. But what it's also, what's unfortunate about it is that it's not feminine.
Hmm.
It's actually not in the feminine to give yourself away like that. The feminine is receptive. The
Yes.
feminine receives. The feminine takes in. The feminine is energized by, and that doesn't mean we're sitting around eating bonbons all day. We're definitely doing things, but we're saying yes and doing the things that nourish us. And if that is service to others in a career like nursing, then fine. But it's not in service to everybody. It's not constant availability. It's not constant depletion and giving of oneself. That is often very much taken advantage of in terms of women and how we operate in the world. So I just want to draw a clear boundary there for the
Yeah.
women listening.
Another thing is, though, um, the receiving part
Mm,
just as important as giving, and
yeah,
in the sense that people often can't receive. They think that they shouldn't receive, or if they are receiving something, they think they should give something back in return. And
yeah,
really, it's a good spiritual practice to receive, knowing that that person wanted to help.
absolutely. It's a gift. I mean, think about, there are dedicated days of reception, right? Like birthdays, you accept gifts because it's your birthday, or if you're a Christmas celebrator, you accept gifts on Christmas. Gifts can happen every day.
Yeah.
And this I think is another element of the indoctrination of the patriarchy, especially for the feminine, that we are taught not to receive because, it's about your own level of self-worth, your own perception of worthiness. And if all you do is give yourself away and never take in, you don't believe yourself worthy of receiving. So that self-worth piece is really at issue when it comes to this idea of giving oneself away. But the other side of it is the healthy masculine is unbelievably empowered through generosity.
Yes, you said that. That's very interesting.
The healthy masculine, like they are energized and enlivened when they provide
Mhm.
for the feminine. Now, it doesn't have to be that old notion of the man goes out, has the job, brings home the bacon, puts his feet up on the couch and is served dinner. Like providership in 2025 can look
Right,
a
right.
lot of different ways. There are a lot of things the healthy masculine can provide us. And yeah, sure, they can contribute financially to whatever we're doing. Yes, but they can also provide emotional stability. They can provide support in our career. There's a lot of things to provide. But when the masculine provides, because that's one of its superpowers, and
Yeah.
when the feminine receives it, we are then actually in a very healthy, balanced dynamic of these
Yes, yes.
polarities.
Well, you mentioned the metaphor of a rock, which symbolizes the masculine, and the water
Yes.
gently going through or going over the rock.
Yeah.
It's the feminine, and there's that beautiful harmony, really, and give and
Yeah.
take and stuff. Um, I think that that really could be what we focus on in our relationships with men. Now, of
Mhm.
course, with whomever you're in a relationship with,
Yep.
romantically or in marriage. Um, and the I think though that sometimes in many relationships the male does take on his role, and maybe women take on a role of the masculine in a relationship, and the other may be more feminine, and it goes back and forth. So it's like a dance of life of some sort, but
Yeah, yeah, it can be. I just want to make sure that people are happy with that dance, though, and I think that one of the things that is a little bit of a challenge is that, roles are actually okay. As
Hmm.
long as everybody is comfortable with those roles, right? There's nothing wrong with them. And one is not weak if one expresses more of the feminine more of the time. One is not suddenly like the default submissive in a relationship because they are in their feminine polarity. Femininity is incredibly strong. Remember, we're the questioners, we're the truth seekers, we're the impetus of change. We are the life bringers. We literally have life energy moving through us. We have creativity. We create things from almost nothing, and that creation requires things being done and a lot of decision making and leadership, and that counterpart is the masculinity. So, in terms of relationship between two people, when you've got two people, I really like that the image of the yin yang in Eastern mysticism, where you've got the complete circle, and there's a little paisley shape that's black with a white dot in it. And a white one with a black dot in it. So you've got these oppositional polarities happening inside of this circle. And now each on their own cannot roll,
Yeah.
cannot move. It's nice, it's a beautiful shape, but when you put them together, now they roll on down the road of life. And so, if we try to do each other's jobs too much,
Hmm.
we squish that paisley into something unrecognizable. If
Right.
we try to take up too much space and be in the wrong polarity all the time, we squish that whole circle and it's unrecognizable. We actually have to stay in our position. And yeah, like we can go back and forth here and there, but more and more and more, the women that I speak with, because I do a lot of private coaching with women around this,
Hmm.
is that because of the patriarchal culture and the emphasis on masculinity, and masculine values, women often end up suppressing their feminine and donning the mask of the masculine so much, right? We have to man up in our lives. We have to armor up for the world. We have to wear the pants in our relationship. All of those metaphors hold. And if we can't take that masculine armor off, we again are exhausted, overwhelmed, burnt out. And furthermore, the more that we wear the masculine, the more we allow others in our life to just default to that receptive feminine.
Hmm.
And so the greatest initiators of divorce right now are women who are in their 40s and 50s. Like 90% of people initiating divorce are women in their 40s and 50s, not the men. The men are happy. I mean, of course they are.
Yeah.
They get to relax and the woman does everything for them.
Yes.
This is what I'm
So
seeing.
that's still happening, huh?
Oh
The-
yeah,
That's sort of,
absolutely. And the women are like, wait a minute, I actually am in the feminine, I would like to be in the feminine, but that sudden downshift into that relaxed feminine space,
yeah,
the family dynamics, if they've been going for 10 years, 20 years, they can't handle that shift.
yeah, yeah.
So we really need to own that feminine space because when we're in the feminine, we call those around us to step into their masculine power. We
Hmm.
call them to step into their healthy masculine. If we have the masculine, they're like, well, she's got it. They default to the feminine.
Uh-huh.
So,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah.
But relationships are really tough.
Oh, yeah.
I have to be, but they are. I mean, let's face it. And just for that very reason, because it you're bringing your baggage, as it were, from a past that that
Hmm.
person did not share. And you have your own parents who may or may not have been harmonious. And then, of course, they were living the lives that they had to live at that time. But you might have a parent who is more domineering than the other, not necessarily the man. My mother was really the matriarch because my
Yeah.
father knew that's what she needed.
Yeah.
Took years to realize that he knew that is what she needed, and he provided that for her.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody finds their own balance, and it's true. I mean, not all women born in a female body are on the feminine polarity. Some of them absolutely are on the masculine polarity or vice versa. Like we don't know what those iterations are. I mean, my work and what I do, I speak specifically to women who are on the feminine polarity because that's the group of people I think I can help the best.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the other thing too, Kate, is we're asking for much different things from relationship now. So, in my grandparents' day, it really was about very traditional roles. She actually did have a job, which she was incredibly proud of, but obviously she made far less than my grandfather. And he took his role very seriously of being the provider of the household, the decision maker of the household. And again, like I mentioned earlier, women couldn't even have their own bank accounts
Mhm.
until the mid 80s. We couldn't have a mortgage on our own.
Yeah.
Now we can make our own money, we can buy our own homes, we can run our own lives. It's very culturally appropriate at this point to be a single woman. So we don't need those traditional things from relationship anymore. What we need from relationship now are the interpersonal growth, the
Yeah.
deep connection, the emotional connection, that feeling that you have a team member on this planet. My
Yes.
grandmother, I don't think, thought of her husband, my grandfather, as a team member, right? So,
Right.
like, we're asking for different things from relationship now.
Yes. And it seems like the women, for instance, that you are working with are, and probably many more women are looking for something that is the personal growth, fulfillment within
Yeah.
themselves, their intuition. They don't want
Yes.
to be their intuition to be knocked down by anybody. They
Yeah.
don't want to be
Abs
gaslit, you know?
No. Oh my God, it's such a problem, this gaslighting. It's such a problem. I think it's so built into the culture at this point that a lot of even good men don't know that they're doing it.
Well, and
You
that's
know,
the
th
example in your book about the woman who noticed that her husband was probably having an affair
yep,
and confronted him, and he made her feel guilty for trying to question him or looking on his phone, and that's gaslighting.
that's right. That's exactly what that is. That she was the problem, that she violated his trust
Yes,
by
yes.
looking on his phone, when in reality, he was the one being conniving and sneaky and duplicitous. Like,
Oh, my,
well, it's kind of that argument. Like, I wouldn't have had to look if you had just been transparent.
yeah.
So, in a relationship, in an intimate partnership, I'm a big advocate for transparency, that there really isn't anything to be hidden. Not,
Well,
not that,
yeah. Go ahead.
you might want to hide it, but sorry, you're in a relationship. You don't get to.
It's
It's
important
just,
to have courageous conversations at every turn.
absolutely.
And so, if she had, for instance, the woman we were just talking about, had the red flag went up, and she knew in her heart that he was cheating on her, rather than running around and telling her girlfriends or her mother or whatever, whomever, she would confront him and know that he was gaslighting her, and say, "Hey, that's what you're doing." Um,
I know that she did confront him, and
yeah,
it did not go extremely well. I also know that, women in relationships, well, frankly, according to my own research and surveys, and 90% of women have toxicity in their relationship. 90% of
yeah.
women report that they have some level of toxicity, whether it's financial abuse, whether it's gaslighting, whether it's manipulation, whether it's guilt trips. The challenge is when we're in that kind of environment all the time, especially with someone who's supposed to love us, it's dysregulating to our nervous system.
Yeah.
And when our nervous systems are dysregulated, and I'm finding this more and more, I'm telling you, the most powerful, high achieving women are least empowered to speak up about it.
Oh,
Because the empowered, high achieving women are like, well, I have so much of my life together, right? I'm making everything look good from the outside. How could I be getting this so wrong?
yes.
Right? I'm the one that keeps everything together out here, but boy, this is
Oh,
failing for me. How do I even speak up about it? And that level of dysregulation actually puts us out of our greatest decision-making faculties and capabilities. It's almost like in a toxic environment or in a toxic relationship, even the most smart and capable women will have like a veneer of wool pulled over their eyes. They can't see the forest for the trees, which is why it's been so beneficial to be able to work with them one on one and be like, "Girl, I got you. Let me see the forest and let's get you through it."
yeah. So in other words, you're helping them to see that they need to integrate all parts of their lives, not just leave that part
Yeah.
festering and
Well, and the problem is too, a lot of this toxicity comes with the kind of gaslighting that we believe.
yeah,
Right? We've been told so long that we're the crazy irrational ones. we start to believe we're crazy and irrational.
Yes.
And unless someone is there to affirm, like, no, your feelings are valid.
Hmm.
This is not irrationality, these are emotions. That's different.
Yeah.
Let's honor the emotions and find out what can be done rationally about them, right? That problem solving, once we've identified kind of the strategic trigger or the stressor, then we can move into problem solving mode. But to just negate the emotions right offhand is depressive and dysregulating for the feminine. So, I mean, look, I've been in toxic relationships. I
Sure.
come from a very abusive upbringing myself, and I believe for many years, people who loved me or were in positions of power, when they told me things like, you need me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, you're right, I do. Or I love you. But wait, the actions don't say that.
Yes.
So, we need somebody to kind of be an advocate or an ally sometimes, and also to forgive ourselves, other women for staying in relationships like
Yeah.
this because they're not operating at 100%. They can't in that kind of environment.
Well, it's not good to judge them, that's for sure.
Oh no. Uh-uh.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you too, you have a background in mythology. So
I do.
how does that help you with your clients and the way you've written your book, etc.?
So mythology, everybody thinks of mythology just as like the Greek gods, the Greek and Roman gods. Mythology is the word that we use essentially for like religious studies or human belief systems. So the program that I went through, and this is what my doctoral work has been in, is about what humans have believed throughout time, all over the world, the faces and stories that they put on those, the way they coagulate into religions if they do, the structures of belief internally. It's really an outgrowing of psychology. So while psychology is very individual and what you believe on the inside, mythology extends to groups and family systems and communities and things like that. And one of the most important questions that comes up in mythology, and this was a question that was asked by the premier mythologist of the 21st century, 20th century rather, Joseph Campbell, is what myth do we live by?
Right.
And so that question itself not only helps us understand where we are in life and who we are in life, but what that life might lead to in terms of meaning. Because as humans, we're not just here to exist. We're here to create meaning with our lives. And in this very sanitized, science-based culture that we're currently living in today, sometimes we forget that meaning is important, that what we believe is important, that our belief systems really color our actions in the world around us. And if we can align our internal beliefs with the way that we're acting in the world,
Yes.
that's how we create meaning. So I do work when I work with my clients, and I incorporate it into all my online courses as well. I talk about the mythology of the feminine, how she's been represented throughout history in different cultures. And, like here in the West, we really only like our only goddess really is Mary.
Oh, well, she's wonderful.
Well, she's completely wonderful. And, I personally don't necessarily, like, I can't be Mary's best friend,
Oh no, no.
right? Mary's had a very unique life and not one that I can see myself in, which is challenging, right? She's very kind of, um, the word that I think of is sanitized,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Like
right.
we've even given her blue robes. That's the evolution throughout history. She originally was robed in red because women bleed. But we
Yeah,
can't have Mary bleeding. We don't want her dirty, right? So we've made her really pristine and perfect. Whereas in the mythology of history and other cultures, we have women they behead others, right? We have women who are goddesses of war and strategy. We have women who are fierce and ferocious, wild and free. We have women who dance. We have women who create the universe. We have women who birth gods, right? Those kinds of myths, if we bring that awareness into our culture, then we don't continue to perpetuate the narrative of the woman who's supposed to be quiet,
right.
only pretty when she smiles. Keep your legs closed,
Mhm.
right? Don't speak up because that's kind of where Mary's been relegated. And I don't want Mary there. I
No,
don't
Mary
think that's
really shouldn't be there, really.
No, I'm sure Mary has a lot to say about her situation and condition,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But we don't know what that is.
No. No.
Right? She's not given a very powerful voice in this mythology. Whereas, for example, the voice of Kali or Durga from Hindu mythology
Yeah.
is loud and you cannot ignore it. Right?
Mhm.
Even Artemis from Greek mythology, that strategic goddess with her bow and arrow in the woods, she's the great huntress,
Yes.
chasing down animals. You know, she in fact had a man torn apart for looking at her the wrong way. You know, so like some of these other myths, which means that those energies are alive within us in our consciousness, can give women permission to reclaim their wildness,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
reclaim their freedom, to reclaim their voice, to reclaim their power. I
Yes.
mean, you know, women can, we know this in 2025, women can do anything. Of course, we can do anything.
Sure.
Now, I want to follow that up with two questions. Number one, do we want to do anything? And number two, when we do what we choose to do, can we do it as the feminine?
Yes, that's right. Um, Joseph Campbell's quote, do you think that it would be probably a good idea to find a myth that we really align with,
Yeah.
try to live that every day?
Yes, absolutely. And your myth is going to evolve as you evolve. But one of the most helpful pieces of understanding what myth you're living by is knowing where you are on the journey.
Yeah,
It really demystifies it. So, like, if you think, for example, things aren't going to get any worse, and you find your myth and you realize actually there's a long road ahead,
yeah.
you have the opportunity to prepare and brace yourself more. You know, if you are in a myth and you think, oh my gosh, I've learned all I have to learn, and then you realize like there's still a little bit more here, you can prepare. And it's more like preparatory for the psyche, which I think is really helpful. And it's also really easy to find out what myth you live by when you, let's say, watch a movie or read a book or hear a story, or if you think about, you know, all the stories you've heard in your past, the first one that comes to mind that really resonates with you, that's going to have some clues as to what myth you might be living. So it's one of the reasons why Star Wars is so pervasive. That particular mythology, especially the original trilogy, is so resonant. It's so resonant for, I think, specifically Americans, but people who watch it and think like, you know, I was just a boy or just a girl, and I got this opportunity, and now I can be the master of the universe. Like that's sort of an American dream kind of narrative inbuilt with all of the recipe of myth and
But
brilliantly done.
that's what these modern stories are based on, really, is myth.
Well, even Star Wars and all these modern stories take a nod from Joseph Campbell. He's the one that cracked the code of mythology and laid it out like this is how and why a myth works. It has to start like this. It
Yeah.
has to go like this. You have to have your helpers on the path. You have to go through the road of trials. You have to first not know what you're doing at all. And
Mhm.
then start to realize that maybe you know what you're doing, and then realize that you knew what you were doing all along. Right? And then finally go back to your original kind of home or point of origin and bring that wisdom back. So it's called the hero's journey if we talk about Joseph Campbell's language of it. But you can basically map every myth that is alive throughout history has a hero's journey. It just does because that's the way our psyche works. That's how we process things. That's what we know and understand. And so when we tell and create stories, if they don't hit these high points, they don't survive.
That's right. Well, and I think that's probably the key to what is going on in our country right now, is that people need to realize they are not victims of the situation,
Right.
and that we have to rise to the occasion and be
Yeah.
a hero or
Yes,
heroine. Um,
absolutely.
and you use the word satisfaction rather than success. That's an
Yes.
interesting dichotomy.
Yes, absolutely. So success to me is very masculine. There's nothing wrong with success. And ladies, all y'all listening, like there might definitely be points in your life where like, nope, I just need a quick road to success. I need a finish line. I need a goalpost to reach. I need key performance indicators, metrics, and all the things that go along with success. So I'm not villainizing success. However, that as the only narrative for creating a meaningful life is not okay.
Right,
I
right.
think one of the things that we've learned and believed, and one of the things I want us to start to move away from, especially as women, is yes, we've been fighting for equality for the last 50, 60 years, longer even, but we've been fighting it on men's terms.
Yes.
And we've been fighting for what men have told us is success and meaning.
Right.
We've been fighting for their world and their ideals. No, uh-uh. Get off of their battlefield. Get
Yeah.
off of their playing ground. We've got our own thing, and it is just as real and just as valuable and just as important and just as precious. And it's going to make us feel better. So when we think about success, we think of it as having a finish line. And one of the things I know about success is that oftentimes when you get to that finish line, either A, you're like, oh, that's it, and you feel unfulfilled. Or
Mhm.
B, you just move the goalpost further down the line, so you never really achieve success.
Right.
The other thing about success is that, especially the way it's done here, is it's very much an individual pursuit. People really prize when someone has done it on their own, pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, gone their own way. And individuality is another trick of the patriarchy to isolate us and
Yeah.
keep us small, especially women. Women are meant to be communal,
Yes.
meant
Yeah.
to be in community. So success as a roadmap for the feminine does not work.
Mhm.
Satisfaction being the pleasure derived from the fulfillment of our wishes and needs, that does work for the feminine. It's holistic, it's expansive, it's evolving. Everyone on the planet wants their needs met. To know that you're getting your needs met, you're going to feel safe and secure. And the fulfillment of wishes is what brings meaning to our life. And satisfaction is a feeling. And if feeling and intuition are the feminine's two superpowers, to know that we wake up every day and we feel good, we
Mm.
feel a sense of pleasure for whatever we're going to do that day, for whatever it is we've chosen to do, whatever it is we've chosen to place our precious energy on, it's
Yes.
going to bring a feeling of pleasure. That's how women become happy and joyful in life. And it's got nothing to do with the bottom line. It's got nothing to keep about keeping up with the Joneses. It's not about everybody else's playbook. It's about ours.
Right. And that's
Yeah,
how we get our needs met.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of heavy duty curation of your life. Fire the places, spaces, and people who do not help you with your level of satisfaction or who do not affirm the four keys from you. I think women can be done with being so polite.
Yeah. And nice.
Um,
Nice.
yeah, we don't need to be nice. Nice. Where is it written that the feminine is nice?
No, the
I
mythology stories you were just talking about, basically, nobody was very nice in those stories.
well, nice doesn't get needs met. Nice gets trampled on.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
nice gets you taken advantage of. And that's in every story. So, like, yeah, we look at the mythology of the world and we're not finding nice. We're finding powerful. We're finding sensual. We're finding, I guess, I'm thinking of like Aphrodite or Venus,
yeah.
who's like the goddess of love, but she's still very selective.
Hmm.
She's
Hmm.
not inviting everybody onto that shell with her in the ocean, right? She's there by herself. She's got everybody around her. Like, you guys can stay over there. So this kind of heavy duty curation and selection, it's all about protecting our energy
Hmm.
because I compare the feminine to a well, and our well needs to never run dry. So the way that we've been trained to constantly give ourselves away, it depletes our energy. The well runs dry. Now, the thing about a well is that it not only serves the person whose well it is, but it serves the community around it. Okay, so it's not just our responsibility to tend to the well and make sure we don't deplete ourselves. It's about the people we surround us with knowing, oh,
Yeah,
the well's running low. We need to give it some time to fill back up.
right.
Then they tend to our well. They realize how precious it is because it is the life force of the community.
Yeah,
The whole community will die if the well runs dry. So everyone needs to participate in making sure that we maintain our energy, our essence, and that feminine essence, it is life force. It
yeah,
is life force. Whether we procreate or not, all women are generative.
yeah.
We have the ability to create something from nothing, but not if we're depleted.
No, no. There's a lot of depletion going on right now. That's for sure.
Yes. Yes. Yes, which is why I think one of the first moves is the curation of the energy so that we have the resources to be able to say yes and no to the things in our lives that really serve us.
Yes, yes. And that takes it takes work, but it doesn't have to be stern uh and joyless. In fact, I would say the opposite is true.
I would too. I think that it can be difficult, especially if you've been in a long-term pattern, which I'm sure many of your listeners all have been, a long-term pattern of just saying yes to everybody,
Yeah.
allowing them to drain you, allowing yourself to be drained. There's going to be a shakeup when you suddenly pull back because one of the greatest words of the feminine is no, not yes. Yes is a masculine word. No is a feminine word. So when we learn to use our no, no, I cannot drive you to the fourth soccer practice of the week.
Mhm.
No, honey, I will not get up at 4 a.m. to take you to the airport. You can take an Uber.
Yeah.
No, I will not make you dinner every night. You can make dinner,
Yeah.
right?
You had
That
mentioned,
no is gonna like, wait,
yeah.
but you always say yes. Yes, I get it. You're uncomfortable, but I refuse to continue to be uncomfortable on your behalf. So you can take that discomfort, do what you want with it. I'm gonna hang out here with my no.
Yeah, yeah. Now that would be the difference between codependency and interdependency, right?
Yes, absolutely. I love that you brought that up.
The codependency is always saying, yes, dear, anything you say, okay. Drop
hmm
everything because they entered the room, whatever.
And one of my favorite teachers likes to say that codependency kills.
Oh, I think it does.
It does. I love true crime. It's my guilty pleasure. And every time I see a true crime show where it ends with, if I can't have her, then no one can,
Oh,
that's the peak codependency.
so if I can't have her, nobody can. Is that the murder part?
Yeah, well, that's true crime. There's always a murder in true
Exactly,
crime. We're
exactly.
always finding bodies.
Okay.
Mhm.
Where can they find you and on social media?
So I'm also on YouTube. I have my The Satisfied Woman channel. And, Kate, I'm going to take a little stand for myself and enforce with your listeners and your viewers my own no. So I sold a big business that I rode that pathway to success. I manned up. I was the boss and I overexhausted myself. I sold a business a little over a year ago in order to go all in on this work because I know how important this work is. And in selling that business, I got rid of all my social media because it was stressing me out. And studies show that social media is incredibly detrimental to female mental health.
Oh, I'm not.
I am not on socials, but I also have my own podcast
Yes,
because
yes.
I love speaking, I love teaching. So that's as social as I get. They can find me at the Satisfied Woman podcast, which I also publish on YouTube at the Satisfied Woman. The best place to find me is my website, which is thesatisfiedwoman.com. And on the website, I do have a community for women to be able to come together and speak to each other and learn about what creates more satisfaction. I've got online courses. I do coaching one-on-one and in groups with people. So thesatisfiedwoman.com is probably the best place to find that. And for all the viewers and listeners, I have a special page for you, which is thesatisfiedwoman.com/empower me. And when you go to that one, you'll get a special little gift to get you started on your path to satisfaction.
That's pretty awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you for
you're
that.
welcome.
And I shall put everything in the description to that what everything you just said. And
Okay.
and also where they can buy your book. There's a
Anywhere books are sold. Anywhere books are sold.
they That's true. I think Amazon is filtering a little bit, but there's other places to buy.
Amazon, yeah, you can buy it on Amazon. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Goodreads, your local bookstore.
Yeah.
It's out and it's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate you talking to me today.
absolutely my pleasure, Kate. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you. And we'll talk maybe some other time. That would be great.
I would love to. Definitely, I would be happy to be invited back.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.